So, welcome Arbonauts to an AMA with Celer. Um, I'm sure many of you are no strangers to Celer. They've been around for quite some time, and especially in our ecosystem. And we have Steve Yu here from Celer's, I believe, the BD team. Correct me if
That's
I'm wrong.
correct.
All right, great. Happy to have you. And we're just going to start with an introduction as usual. So why don't you just introduce yourself, Steve, and what you do at Celer.
Hi, guys. It's great to be here, um, to join Arbitrum and this ecosystem that is thriving. I'm Steve, the head of BDS Seller Network. A little bit background about Seller is that we're a blockchain interoperability platform, basically enabling a one-click user experience accessing tokens, DeFi, GameFi, NFTs, governance, so on and so forth across multiple chains, including L1s and L2. Seabridge, what we're probably best known for, has processed over 12.3 billions in transactions across, I think, 40 plus different chains at the moment. And we were able to do that without any compromise to our smart contracts, nor our partners ever losing liquidity on our bridge. We support the bridging of fungible tokens, NFTs, and general message passing across the 40 different chains. And I think on average, we're adding about 1 to 3 new chains on a monthly basis, including non EVMs like Aptos, Flow, and others. And we're looking to support more projects within the ecosystem. And we have partnered with a number of key players in the ecosystem, including MetaMask, Oasis, Ledger, PancakeSwap, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Great. And just out of curiosity, how did you get involved in Web3 yourself?
So, very good question. So, I got into the blockchain specifically around payments. I was in luxury travel before I joined crypto, and it was during one of my trips to East Africa, specifically Kenya and Tanzania, that I saw how the natives were using these 3G, those old Nokia phones, basically transmit payment across a vast land over places like over Serengeti. So, it was much more effective as opposed to riding your scooter across the the, the Serengeti to get access to an ATM or banking. So that was sort of the rabbit hole that I got involved in 2015, 2016. So, when I came across the team at Seller Network, it was really hard to turn that opportunity down, especially when the founding team are a very stellar and notable individuals here in Silicon Valley. So, when those guys get together, it's pretty exciting, and it's a once in a lifetime experience, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so too. That's how I felt about Arbitrum. It's a great space to work in. You usually got to work in it for a while before you can
That's right.
build the network and get to know people, because it's a pretty big space. But once you start making friends, the web grows out pretty quick.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think this ecosystem is oftentimes a lot of through introductions, and I think trust plays a significant role in that. Obviously, especially if you're working on interoperability and bridging. So, of course, there's a lot of validation to that.
Yeah, and bridges are just something we need in this space to for interoperability and to just make the onboarding process between chains and just into blockchain in general more feasible.
Yes, absolutely.
And they've come a long way, but clearly, as you know, have a long way to go still. And maybe you could get into a bit about how the Celer bridge or the C bridge, as you call it, works, and like what makes it unique.
Yeah, right. So our founding team, they've been teaching Solidity since I think 2017 with over thousands of students. So, it's easy to say that we're deeply invested and want to see this ecosystem do well because we believe in it. We believe in the technology. We believe what we're supporting is for a greater cause, for especially to many of the listeners here today, but also many of the ecosystems that are really working hard and blossoming. And our track record and having some clarity around how we support our projects today, which is over what 12.3 billions in transactions and supporting 40 different chains without any compromise. So I think the track record plays a key role in that because oftentimes we see this in within our shared space that whenever there's a major or even a small compromise on a bridge, liquidity tends to move around quite a bit to I guess safer elevation, so to speak, or safer zones. So I think one of the things that really helped us to secure our bridging is, I got to pay a lot of respect to our security. We have some very smart people working on this day and night and thinking um, about security and making it faster, better, cheaper for everyone. Almost entirely, and we dedicate a significant amount of our resources into this R&D. Speaking a little bit more about security, our Seabridge is a Cosmos based, there's a tenement based blockchain to oversee this thing. And we have two different security models. One is the L1 proof of stake blockchain security model that I just talked about, because Celer consists of smart contracts that are deployed on each chain, and these contracts are all monitored and operated by what we call SGN, or State Guardian Network, which serves as a cross chain message router. And then the second model is an optimistic roll-up inspire model. So this was inspired by, as you probably guessed, optimism roll-up design. So it works similar to like if you're traveling to a new destination at the height of COVID, that once you arrive at the airport or to your destination, you get quarantined until things check out, so to speak, and sure. So there's a lot of effectiveness to that. And even for our validators, we carefully examine them to see, number one, minimum requirement is that they have to have at least $500 million assets under management just to be supporting us. So, we want to do as much as we can to ensure that this thing is safe as possible. And Seabridge has been contributing an integral part in supporting a number of key ecosystems. Oftentimes that go beyond just the technical integration. For example, when Celer Network, when we help launch a project or an ecosystem, oftentimes those projects need liquidity bootstrapping. So we have a very close network of liquidity providers who can contribute and support that in that sense. And of course, marketing and operations, often we get asked to collaborate in various ways. And in terms of improving a bridging design or improving the security measures or best to allocate or make their liquidity much more efficient. These are some of the conversations that we love having. And we're, fully transparent in what our beliefs are, because obviously we're all in this together. So if one project or one bridge, even other bridges get affected, we certainly feel the impact as well. And I think our, PhD founders, founding team, we have a very strong DNA of academia and research. So these guys are also, sort of coming down from top positions in a very notable companies in Silicon Valley. Um,
Sounds like Arbitrum.
that's right, with Mr. F. Elton, right, out of Princeton. So, we certainly know, those characters and have a whole lot of respect for that. And even MetaMask bridges, they launched a bridges, it's a bridging aggregation that helps users to find the best routes for time, cost, and security considerations for bridging experience. And we're very proud to share that MetaMask has also integrated Celer Bridge on their aggregation. So these are some of the things that differentiates us from the pack and where we're focused on.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that MetaMask integrated that. That's great to know.
Yeah. It was last couple months ago, and quite a bit of user engagement there. Yeah.
Awesome. I bet that's one of the biggest, if not the biggest wallet at the
Ooh.
moment. So when you talk about security and kind of the infrastructure of how that's built, I think the first thing that comes to like the everyday user's mind is audits.
Yeah.
So I guess wondering like what audit reports do you guys have and How safe is it to use the DApp and the platform?
Right. I think that's a very fair question. We have at least 6 or 7 audits from Certec, PeckShield, SlowMist, etc., for the different types of bridging solutions that we give, whether it's fungible tokens or NFTs or canonical or liquidity bridge. So these are something that we take it as a requirement for us to deploy to the public. So we're very happy with that, especially knowing that we're able to cross over 12.3 billions in transactions without any faltering in that area. So that gives us a whole lot of confidence. On top of that, I think we have a a 2 million bounty still outstanding for if anyone finds any flaws in the bridge. So we're always looking to figure out if there's any vulnerabilities, but I can assure you that on our side, we're doing actively looking in R&D side just to even make it what we have our product even better.
I'm curious about bounties. With bounties like that size and that important, do you guys get a lot of people just trying like submitting bounties, just to look for things? Does it work the way that it's intended? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
I think some of the security firms they probably have a much um, intimate understanding of the data. So for example, what the conversion rate is actually for somebody putting a bounty as well as finding it. But within our bounty, I think we have set a parameter on the things we that would qualify as a bounty, as opposed to if somebody were to look at a website and say, "Hey, there's a typo," of course, that's not going to count. So there are some
Right.
guidelines to that. And that
Okay.
information, I think you guys could find it on the FAQ section on Cbridge, which is cbridge.celer.network.
Okay. I'd like to get into a bit around Seller's partnership with Arbitrum and what specifically you guys bring to the table for the ecosystem.
Yeah. So currently, just as I was mentioning, we have support for 40 plus different chains, and I think Arbitrum was one of the very first chain slash ecosystems that we supported on Cbridge. So currently, Seller supports Arbitrum One, which is now running on Nitro, to help with the increased throughput, lower fees, basically a next generation roll up architecture, right? So we have support for token bridging and general message passing there. Arbitrum Nova, which is focused on obviously gaming, NFT, social, GameFi in that area. So we have integrated Seller's interchain messaging framework on Nova, and naturally we're in discussion for token bridging, which is in progress. So you know, we see the direction and sort of the investment, but also the research that you guys are putting in by creating a sort of a different focus areas around, whether it's DeFi or GameFi, and we certainly want to be supportive of that. So we are our team is talking to a number of the projects on Arbitrum Nova to see what sort of assets that those applications will be needed, because we know that once those infrastructures are in place, then the tech integration is in place, and we'd love to take a look at how we can work more closely, whether it's either helping bootstrap some of the more promising projects, so which we have done for other ecosystems in the past, where we had one particular blockchain L1, and we've been really working hard to kind of win their business and support them, but they decided to go with another bridge solution, which ended up getting hacked. And since then, we've been working very closely to regain the traction for that chain through liquidity provisioning, marketing, operations, and things like that. So we certainly like to also extend that courtesy and support to the Arbitrum ecosystem as we go forward.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, I mean, as you guys are aware, the Arbitrum, engineering team and research team, it's a big focus here. It was probably like the main focus for the you know, um, phase of the whole
Yes.
project's existence was just focusing on engineering and the
Mm.
tech and building something really scalable and and has the wheels to remove the decentralized guardrails over
Hmm.
time. So I really love that myself as well, and I'm sure you guys do too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think being so connected to, if I say 40 chains, it is quite a bit. And with that,
Yeah,
with that, and sometimes it's really hard to even keep track of them, when they're pinging, when a certain event goes on. And we try to do as best we can, and which gives us a really good pulse of the market, how things are moving, which ecosystem is building what, where the momentum is shifting. So it's been really interesting to kind of get a bird's eye view. And if I use the Golden Gate Bridge as an example here in the Bay Area, one side of the bridge, we see an entire ecosystem of, let's say, where there's Ethereum, blossoming. And then there's an offshoot from there where you see the L2s really blossoming with their own set of applications and their use cases. And then the other end of the bridge, you might see like, the other ecosystem, whether there's Avalanche or Binance or Polygon, and they're also all blossoming, whether it's NFT and gaming. So we eventually think that uh, the different nodes and different projects and different ecosystems will pretty much end up being connected one way or another. So that gives us a whole lot of motivation in what we're doing. And again, coming from a really deep computer science background, similar to the ones at Arbitrum here at Celer Network, it's very interesting to see how the academias are at work and really playing out um, how they foresee things happen and creating the infrastructure to support it, whether it's message passing or NFTs or fungible tokens. So we certainly want to be a key piece in the ecosystem, support it securely and fast and low cost as possible.
yeah, and when we talk about like that interoperability and all these chains being connected as like the bigger vision in the end game in a way, just that EVM interoperability is so huge, and I think a big part of why the Arbitrum ecosystem has blossomed at the speed that it has, which then goes back to like how the focus was on research and the
Yes.
tech from the very beginning, which led to that.
Wow. I think that's a very important piece because when we come across assessing a project to determine whether we want to support them or not, or sometimes a case whether we should support them or not, some of the things that we take into consideration is the context. Who are the team players? If you do you have another Ed Felton, so to speak, on your roster, then if so, then there's a lot of weight that you carry, because he's coming from a very notable institution like Princeton and deploying sound solutions that tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of people are using it already. On the other hand, we do come across some projects where the transparency is a little bit lacking in terms of who the players are, and how they're collaborating. And we get, I'm sure you two get this as well, Elias, is a lot of projects want to do something to get the word out, and sometimes it could be less material in terms of the collaboration or partnership, so we tend to stay with that. But if the projects are legitimately focused on providing some solution, and it doesn't have to be completely unique, it could be something similar that's already out there in the market. But if it's deemed safe with some audit reports, that would be fantastic. It gives us a lot more confidence in terms of what we can share, meaning like, things like even liquidity. So uh, we do get a wider range of people calling, and having conversations with us. And I think about anywhere from 20 to 30 projects a week that we go through. And there are projects that we politely do decline because they're not quite ready yet, I guess, in terms of timing. And once they get their ducks in a row, so to speak, then we'll be more than happy to re-examine that and support them. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I think sometimes we forget of the classic side around due diligence is you can vet projects, you can build a relationship with them, you can see audit reports, but at the end of the day, anything can happen in this space, as we've seen. So you just always need to respect that risk tolerance and just that awareness that it's still early in this space, and we just always have to keep that open mind. And and protect ourselves. But one of the focuses, I think, when we talk about collaborations is one thing we love to do is to connect our ecosystem, and not just onboard someone into our ecosystem and then give them exposure. We love to give them the tools to connect with the rest of the ecosystem and help collaborate and amplify each other, which does a lot,
Yeah,
in my
I
opinion.
think you bring up a very interesting point, because just when I think after talking to hundreds of different projects, you kind of have an idea before I even get on a call what the project would want to do or want to explore. But what we're seeing on seller side is about, I would say, anywhere from 3 to 5% of the top projects that we talk to. And top could be a little bit, the definition of top could be a little bit subjective, uh, but it's typically the ones that have a very clear set of directions and goals and what they want to achieve with an application that they've been designing for some time. And when we launched our general message passing, which is making cross-chain composability possible. Yeah, and we started talking to a number of different partners. We're always sort of surprised by what they come up with. And one of the examples is like, Pancake Swap is one of our key partners. And when they decided to go beyond Binance and launch on Ethereum, um, they're using our general message passing to do cross-chain yield claiming. So meaning that a user of Pancake Swap can open a position on Ethereum and then collect their yield token, which is Cake, on Binance. And we're seeing a number of different use cases for it. Where there's cross-chain NFT bridging and purchasing for Tofu NFT is another one, or one click and one transaction cross-chain swaps for our partners like Rubik or Rango Exchange has been another one. So we keep coming up with varying different use cases from different projects. And just earlier this morning, spoke with another project that what they want to do is open a allow people to open a position with their NFT as a collateral on, let's say, chain A, and then borrow against that for another completely different asset on chain B. So those are some of the things that we can support, and the use case is really up to the projects. But we're more than happy to explore if we can support them or not. So, and we're always surprised by the different use cases. So, I would say it's very promising and encouraging to see where this ecosystem will be as we progress together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I think it's kind of like our responsibility and role to be a facilitator and a conduit, if anything, to help, not for us to just empower the ecosystem, but as I said, for them to empower themselves and each other. And I mean, just for example, yesterday we were talking with Lyra, and their integration into Arbitrum is directly with GMX. So like that's just case in point of connecting partners, and allowing them to kind of build something on their own that is really great for the space.
Sure, absolutely.
I want to backtrack a bit. You were talking about how you got into this space, and specifically Stellar, and you were talking about the academia of the founders, and we were just talking about being a part of projects with really strong academic backgrounds with the founders. So, what do you know what motivated the team on Celer to kind of start this big project?
Yeah, I could kind of, I guess, infer from some of the conversations that I had with the founding team. I know that for sure. Like, for example, you know, one of the things was that they want to challenge themselves. I think as entrepreneurs, me having to start a company in travel many years ago, getting that acquired and then merged, and then getting another, going through an acquisition with companies like Groupon and so on and so forth. There's a lot of these, I guess, opportunities that come in, present themselves, but oftentimes those are created or present themselves when you're deeply sort of like focused on the task and growing the business. So I think there was what's called, quote unquote, an itch, so to speak, that needed to be scratched. And as people who are very high performers, they kind of miss that. And once you kind of get into a larger companies with hundreds or tens of thousands of people, maybe that opportunity isn't what is like that first drew you into that opportunity. So, if you have a complementary set of skills, right? Uh, I think those, especially with your teammate, if one is, founding team member is really strong on cryptography, the other one is really good on network systems or adverse network systems. They tend to complement one another. And I kind of jokingly tell, others that, well, the founding team, there's four founding team members, and if it were some sort of an old kung fu movie, right, and you're fighting this, I don't know, the last boss, so to speak, and you need all the assets and all the tools and techniques to beat them, the four founding team will come together, so to speak, and complement one another in defeating the bad guy.
Right,
So
your party with different classes. You have your tank, your wizard, and your healer and stuff like that.
that's
It's
right. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. It's no
So,
different. Which
yes.
one came first? Do you think?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't know. I think whoever threw the first stone probably started the whole conversation.
Yeah,
So
I always wonder what inspired which on either side. It's a funny thought.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, and it's not just the founding team members. I think the other teammates in the background are also noted, but not only recognized in academia, but in real world applications. These guys have successfully implemented algorithmic game theory to protocol designs, led in building Google's data center networking infrastructure. What's the other one? Built I think the core components of Google's TensorFlow, Intel DPTK, Bell Labs, Raytheon. So I know some of their developments have also been acquired by one of the key Department of Defense contractors here in the U.S. And I know them because I served 4 years in the military, and so we know the gravity of these inventions. So I think there's always this desire to learn and improve, but also contributing to an ecosystem that we all believe in. So this is an opportunity where I think the timing is really, it really beats speed because being in the valley, I think I missed the whole mobile movement when things went into mobile one, mobile first, because I was involved in another project, and just when AI was really taking off, I sort of felt like I missed that opportunity as well, working on another project. But I believe the things that we're working now on interoperability within the blockchain is going to give me the key sort of a routing experience and the connector that we are going to be needing. And I think the team has recognized that, and it's one of the most difficult things to work on, I believe, in the blockchain, especially because we're dealing with other people's money. And God forbid, if we were to lose some money, I would really hate to have one of our partners who, we sort of nurture the relationship, come look for me. That would not be the ideal situation. And I love to sleep peacefully at night. So these are some of the things that we work together, and that also encourages and motivates us to work on some of the most difficult things in this space.
Yeah, that's awesome. I couldn't agree more with all of that from a sentiment side, and I think it's important to just keep always pushing like your roadmap and what you want to build out. It's like there's never an end point really if your goal is to continue building and continuing like to keep up with security and innovation on and using like all of that research in academia like for
Yeah.
that reason.
Yeah, I jokingly also talk about this with our colleagues that, when you go to school, college, or wherever, you get a textbook or a course material and you go through it, and those course materials have at least been around for maybe, I would like to say, 6 months to a year, maybe. And the things that we work on the blockchain, it moves so fast where it feels like whatever we're inventing is almost like when they're actually writing the book, but we're not writing the book per se, uh, the actual book, because sometimes that's not our priority at the moment. But and we need to brutally prioritize. So some of the latest the developments, we have a very hard time looking for third party resources to see what others are publishing about it. So it's been a really interesting field to work in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just even from personal experience, when I first got into the space in early 2018, I couldn't find a lot of information, and I think my first year I just spent I don't even think I invested in anything. I just spent a lot of time learning and
Mhm.
just reading, and then you end up going down a rabbit hole, and then from there you start joining communities, and it's kind of like an endless process. And to a certain degree, you have to um, one, believe in it, and maybe even enjoy it. So it's really interesting to see how the resources for this space kind of become more accessible as we move forward. It'll be interesting once you just enter a bookstore and you start seeing all these books on DeFi or NFTs or stuff as like a regular thing, or like as you would like a recipe book.
Yes, 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 yes. I agree with that.
So I was talking about a roadmap and how we need to keep always pushing the envelope on that. What is we talked about what you guys have been doing and what you currently do. Can you get into a bit about what's next in 2023 for Celler's roadmap that the community can expect at large?
Yeah, I think there's a very healthy flow of projects that we're integrating at the moment. I think we've covered most of the sort of the key usual suspects of the EVM world, and we're continuing to support that. Then we see a lot more of these non-EVMs that are popping up. Latest one that we supported was Aptos, which is using, I think, Rust Move language. And so as the sort of the ecosystem evolves dynamically, where we're seeing sort of a crowd or usage going to one chain or another, we want to be very mindful of that because sooner or later, again, they'll need bridging or interoperability. So we'll continue to support more ecosystems slash chains as we go. Not sure if it's going to be anywhere from 1 to 3 on average as we've been doing in 2022. But if any of the thing that we've done in the past is an indication, then we expect to support it as we go. There's also significant research being done again on how do we make this bridge even better, but also how do we make the infrastructure and the things that we could support with other chains much more easily understandable. So there's a lot of these operational improvements that we can also make on our side. And how do we even make liquidity much more composable for some of the the projects? So I would say obviously there's a ton of integration in place, but there's a significant R&D coming that we invested that you will start seeing some of the work come into fruition come Q1 and Q2. So expect more of that. At the moment, we spend much of our time pretty much head down on the work because uh, you know there are quite a bit of projects that are asking some very specific, unique bridging design solutions that we also want to be a part of. That could possibly be utilized for supporting other projects as well. So making it faster, cheaper, better, but also, through combining all the different nodes, being supportive for the entire ecosystem is on our plan. And we have no shortage of those projects inbound. And I think there's even a small queue of the projects that we're supporting on Celer.
Yeah, I guess when you talk about future chains and future projects to support, at the same time you're still having to maintain what already exists, and as you said, improve upon it, and that can be in so many different ways, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially when you think of Adapt itself, like you have the UI, what that looks like, where people can find things, how the user experiences it, and even as the little things, just like the colors, how like pleasant it is to be on the DApp. I think that's a big part of Web3 that is in the
Yeah.
works, and that is going
Yeah.
to need a lot of work, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think when I talk to the projects, sometimes it could be a project of 2 people or 3 people or 4 people. Then there are projects like Arbitrum and Consensus. They have a little bit more presence there. If anything, everybody's trying to make an improvement there. So we certainly want to be supportive of all the directions that you guys are going.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
great path to be
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, and it seems like those projects are typically heavily focused on deep engineering, and oftentimes I think those projects could also benefit. And I'm seeing slowly more projects looking for UI designers, things like that. So what you touched on, Eli, I think is a lot of things that people are working. And a good example of that is, one of our partners, Rubik Exchange. I think they did a really good job on their UI and really being a little bit empathetic to the new users coming on board, because new users are not really understanding how wallets work, different than their bank accounts, so to speak, right? And I think currently we have about 20 different wallets that are integrated on Cbridge. So um, just the flow and the UI, so to speak, can also definitely improve, I think, overall within this space.
Yeah, especially yeah, the more like interoperability you have, the more things you support, then the more things can maybe get like a bit complicated, and so having systems in place to keep things simplified as you expand is really important to consider.
Mhm.
Steve, are you cool to take questions from the community?
Sure, I think I have yeah, let's go for it.
All right, cool. All right, Arbonauts and like-minded ecosystems. Any questions for Steve for Celer? The way it always works is people raise their hand during while we're talking, and then it takes a minute to get them back up here. All right, here we go. We have Manny Manny B investing. Okay, I got it. One word. There we go.
Hi, Manny.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. I had some questions. I've been following the project for a while, and I really got exposure to Celer with Milkomeda. The one thing that I have been noticing though is I appreciate the technology, the bridge and whatnot, but I was curious as to like the seller token itself, its use cases currently, and future use case, and access to the token. I find isn't isn't like bridging with your product. So say like I would love to have exposure to be able to swap for seller on the new platforms that you provide bridges to. Is that something that you guys are focusing on, or is that not a high priority right now?
Yeah, that's probably. Thanks for that question. I think that's a question that we've been tinkering around with for some time. Currently, is used to for the validators and get a return on that. But yeah, I think your question is a valid question that's been a discussion for some time, and I also would like to see. I can't uh, project anything, but something that we want to address more. But I'll leave it at that without going into too much details, because this is an area that I think it's probably best suited for the founding team to bring on, and not to be so elusive on it, because I really don't have any strong clarity on this, Manny.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Manny. All right, let's bring on JGD.
Oh, hello. I've been following this space for a little bit as well, and it's awesome what you guys are doing. And just to um, have this direct line, I was wondering if you could just speak on something that you guys as a team or individual have been facing that's a trouble for you guys that you guys are thinking is something that you're working on. Just like I know there's a lot you could obviously go towards, but something that has been at the forefront of like your problems that you're trying to solve, just to get an insight to that for you guys.
Wow, wow. Boy, I wish I could kind of sit down with a cup of coffee and then we could go through these ones. But I could kind of tell you that something that has been out of our control, that I've sort of have this observation, is that I think beginning of last year, 2022, when the market condition was much more favorable, it seemed like everyone and their mother wanted to bridge a token, and it was going from one chain to another. And then we saw um, how the space was getting focused around NFT and NFT bridging, and then we saw the the thing with Terra and then Binance as well as the FTX. So one thing over another, and then when the market goes down, it seems like a lot of the projects become gun shy. to launch or even have any word of mouth being out in the market. So everyone is sort of looking or waiting for the optimal time to launch or even announce any collaboration. And I don't know, I understand the logic behind it, but I also think that a lot of projects don't tend to need to delay anything, um, because I think there's a lot more opportunities to work with Celer just beyond tech integration. And when we look at projects that we support, we look at them from a partnership perspective. Where if you're doing one integration, that's great. We'll make the announcement and support you guys on that. But when there are other things that come after that, whether it's a new feature you guys are deploying on another asset or another chain or collaborating, we love to be part of that. So I think a lot of the projects that when they come to us, they think of almost they treat it as a one-time kind of a thing where you go to a DMV and you're kind of done, you're out, or you go to get an oil change or whatever. But we really like to be considered as a close partner of the projects that we support, because as more projects where others use the asset bridging on our side for your project or things of that, it benefits us as well. So we have a very strong um, marketing division that we deploy. So I certainly hope that that is on the table for many of the projects that we work with. And if it's if there's a specific timeline in mind that these projects want to launch, speak to us and see what's the best thing we can do to kind of stretch that out and get much visibility as we can for the partners. Because I think just on the Twitter side on the Celer, we have I think close to like above 170,000 users, something like that. That's pretty significant. And I'm sorry, 180,000 now. Just checking. And we also have a pretty good presence in Reddit as well as on Telegram. So reach out to us, see if we could have those conversations early, because when the market picks up, we tend to have an overflow of projects wanting to do this. So it's always good to, I think, start those conversations early.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Talking about sitting down with a coffee to answer that question, and I wish it wasn't so late in the day for me to have another coffee. Right, we have another question here. Sandeep Arya, let's add him onto the stage. Welcome. Can't hear you yet. I think they're trying to speak. The classic rebooting. They're gonna relog in.
Sure.
That's a good answer, by the way. There's so many ways you can go with a question like that.
Yeah, this it is a marathon. It's not like a science project we do in high school. But this is something that I think most of us listeners, if they're building, it would take a significant amount of their time and effort in building this. So it would be complimentary, I would say, to find a partner that would ride with you and support you in an area as interoperable, right? So I think having these conversations early and nurturing that relationship really does help.
Yeah, 100%. We talked quite a bit during this AMA about nurturing the ecosystem and the partners involved, and how that's kind of what makes it tick, really.
Mm-hmm.
We're bringing Sandeep back on here.
Hello.
Oh, I hear you.
My question is for Celer Network.
Go for it.
Okay, Celer, from the past 1 year, there is very hello. Did you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Let me get it straight. In the next 2 years, where do you see yourself?
Yeah, I think the next 2 years, I'm smiling when you ask me that question, because sometimes I don't know what's going to be, next 3 months, because things move so fast. And
Yeah, obviously,
I'm
but yeah, but but you are not fake, na? You are a good bridge, That's why.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think in the foreseeable future, what we like to be part of is ensuring that we're able to securely and quickly bridge assets or general message passing as a key interoperability uh, player. That is our main focus. So that also really depends on what types of projects, as well as other chains and ecosystems coming on board, and because when we started bridging a couple years ago,
Hmm.
we didn't expect this wide variety of the different chains as well as L2s that would come in. So this is a constant question that we're trying to get a good grasp of in terms of where the market is going to be. Market in terms of the our share ecosystem will be, whether would it be much more NFT focused, eccentric, or is it going to be
Okay, that's great.
yeah, so it really does also depend on how the ecosystem evolves. But as a core interoperability infrastructure provider, we want to be sure that this is something that we can support for the ecosystem, and I think we're doing it pretty securely right now.
Okay, nice. And another question is about Celer token. What is the main use case of your token? What is the USP?
Yeah, I think we touched
Is
on
it
that.
only for validators right now?
Yes, we're validators right now. You could collect
Okay.
fees, but yeah, I think the token question is something that I'm also looking forward to seeing in some
But
of the.
basically, when we buy the Celer token, it doesn't impact our life.
Yeah,
It is only for validators, to be honest.
yeah. So there are use cases for the tokens, just like any other projects. For ours, as you are well noted, it's for validating right now and to collect
Yes,
fees.
I,
So
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Abitram. Thank you, Value Network.
Thank you, Sandeep. All right, I saw one more person raise their hand, but they have since. Oh, we have a request here from Global Web3. This will be our last one we'll take, and then
sure,
we'll wrap up with you, Steve.
sounds good.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have a question for Celer Network. Like recently we have seen a lot of bridges being exploited. So security for the cross-chain bridges are a very important factor, right? And it's easier like if someone find the bug or something and it gets exploited and millions dollars are drained from it. So how does you like take care of the security?
Yeah, I think we touched on this earlier in our conversation, but I'll be happy to touch on it again. So, Celer has two different security models. One is the L1 proof of stake blockchain security model, and the second one is an optimistic rollup inspired model. The first one, the L1 proof of stake blockchain security, consists of smart contracts that are basically deployed on each of the chains. And these contracts are all monitored and operated by what we call SGN, or State Guardian Network, which is basically a cross-chain message router. And we also have at least 21 validators with at least $500 million assets under management just to validate, just to become one of our validators. The second one is what's what we call it an optimistic roll-up design inspired, similar to how when you travel during the height of COVID, you will need to be quarantined until for a period of time until things get a little bit more examined. So those are the two main security models that we use. But in between, you can be sure that there's a number of mechanisms that will flag anything that's suspicious for us to take another look at. And I think we're the only one, if one of the two bridges that have at least processed 10 billions in transactions without a security breach, or our partners ever losing liquidity. So I think this is something that we take very seriously, and we're in fact on top of it, acting on ways to make this even faster and better and more secure.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I have another question about the mask transactions. Like, security and privacy is very important part of the blockchain. So do you guys have any plan like using Zk rollups or the new technologies that is gonna mask the transactions?
I could say, without giving any specifics, that we're in talks with a number of the different chains and ecosystems that will be useful for us all. Well, and some of the things I can't divulge too much info yet, but you can expect a lot more chains that will be supporting and um, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Global. All right, so before we wrap up, Steve, just wondering if you can just point people in the right direction on how to participate in the Celer network and the dApps available.
Sure. I think the best place to follow us is probably on Twitter, because all of our announcements that we work on gets announced directly on our Twitter. So it's the handle is at Celer Network. I think the handle is the same also for Telegram, and we have admins there that can help you direct it. Our website for Celer Network is celer.network, and if you want to use Cbridge, you could click on the Cbridge on Celer.network, or go directly at cbridge.celer.network cbridge.celer.network. You can also reach out to me, Steve Yu, head of BD at Celer Moon, CELER MOON. That is my Telegram handle.
All right, great. Do you guys also have a Discord? Did you mention that?
Yes, you could also find us on Discord as well.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks so much, Steve, for your time.
Yeah. Likewise, I had a great time with you guys, and looking forward to the next one, perhaps.
Yeah, me too. Enjoy the rest of your day. I know it's early.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care now.
All right, take care, Arbonauts. Thanks for joining, everyone.